2. Day 1. It's actually day 2. Yesterday doesn't count. Yesterday they told me to keep a journal, to write down how I'm feeling, to share. They tell me I've been here 2 weeks. I'm sure they're lying. That's how I feel, that's what I'm going to share. I don't know why I'm here, I'm not insane, I'm not crazy. I've seen some crazy people here, I'm not like them. However, if they leave me here long enough, I'll be that lady sitting over in the corner by the window talking to her reflection. As long as I'm not the one who stood in the middle of the room and pissed. That's just wrong. No one will tell me why I'm here. Just that I needed to be here, I need to be home, only I can't seem to remember where it is. Strange. That's all for today, I'm tired. Day 2. It's actually day 3, maybe I'll change it tomorrow. I still don't know why I'm here. A doctor wanted me to talk to her today to tell her what I remember. What am I supposed to remember? They won't tell me. The crazies are crazier today than they were yesterday. Piss lady shit in the middle of the room today. That was shitty. There's another one who plays checkers against herself. She sits on one side of the table, makes a move, then gets up and goes to the other side of the table and makes a move, then gets up. You get the picture. If anyone goes near her, she growls. I stay away. They made me take some medical tests this morning. Wires on my head. I think they wanted to see if I have a brain. They wouldn't tell me the outcome. Bastards. Maybe tomorrow I'll write about my roommates. Cellmates, whatever, there are bars on the windows. I'm tired. Day 4. Yes, it's actually day 4. The first day didn't count, but I need to know what day it is. They don't have names anymore, just numbers, like me. Only I don't know what my number is. Must be 324A, my room and bed, it works. I mentioned that I'd write about my cellmates today. There are 2, I don't know their names, maybe like me they don't have one. 324B is some fat slob of a woman, she doesn't get out of bed. She doesn't talk, she just lays there, eats, watches TV and moans. Great conversationalist. 324C is weird. She only shuts up when the lights go off at night. Not that she talks loud, more of a mumble. They take her away 3 times a day for about an hour each time. When she comes back, she's quiet for 10 minutes. I timed her. Then she starts mumbling again. She looks at her fingers when she's mumbling. I think she's counting, but I'm not sure, and I'm not going to ask. They didn't look for my brain today. I must not have one. Which would explain a lot. Like why I can't remember what I'm supposed to remember. They seem to be of the opinion that I'm purposely not remembering. If it would get me out of this stink dive hole, I'd remember. I don't like it here. I feel like there are bugs crawling under my skin, and I'm never clean. Why can't I get clean? I shower 3 times a day, but I still feel dirty. They still won't tell me what I did, but it must have been bad. Day 8. I thought it was day 5. Then they told me it wasn't. I think they're making me crazy by lying to me. Where did days 5, 6, and 7 go? Maybe they went to visit my unknown and unremembered past. It's probably nicer there. There probably aren't crazy people there. Piss lady is on the rag. She's leaving a trail everywhere she goes. It's rather disgusting. No one will do anything. They just have a janitor follow her around with a mop. I stay out of the community room. They don't want me to do that. They tell me I need to socialize. I told them about Piss lady and they told me there's no one there doing that. But she is. They want me to believe I'm crazy. They don't go in there, they don't know. Only the orderlies go in there. They see it. They know I'm not crazy. They looked for my brain again today, still not in my head. I wonder where it is. How am I surviving without it? Must be on autopilot or something. They also looked for my heart. I think they found that. Good. At least the blood will continue to flow through my veins. If not to my brain, or maybe it does go to my brain, but my brain is in a jar somewhere else. I don't know. Day 9. Lost the first half of today. Don't know where it went. I woke up at my usual 8 a.m., then it disappeared until 5 p.m. Interesting. How can they steal 9 hours like that? I don't get it. Wow, I've heard about people who lose hours or days. They have multiple personalities. Do I have another person living in my body? I hope not. That other person probably has all my memories and is hoarding them. That's just not cool. Unless something really horrible happened and that other person is keeping me from remembering. I've heard about stuff like that happening too. Thing is, if I can't remember, then I have to stay here. I don't like it here, I'd rather remember. Bloomburg came to see me today. No one else seems to recall seeing him, so they probably think I'm even crazier than they originally thought. I don't know why I call him Bloomburg. I think his name is Gil. Gil something, but not Bloomburg. I just know I've always called him Bloomburg. And I've known him for years. I just can't remember where we met, or where we went. But we used to go places together. Anyway, it was a nice visit. 324B was in the room. Her moaning was a bit distractive, but we managed to visit despite it. At least 324C was gone, on one of her daily disappearances. He only stayed an hour. Then he had to leave, but he promised he'd be back. He wouldn't tell me why I was here, either. That bothered me. Maybe they told him he couldn't tell me. They want me to remember on my own. Only, they claim he wasn't really here. This is tiring. Trying to keep sane when everyone around me is trying to make me crazy. Day 10. It's really day 12. I'll fix it next time. Because only parts of days 10 and 11 happened. On day 10, I recall waking at my usual 8 am, having breakfast, then it all disappeared until my usual bedtime of 11 p.m. Day 11, I woke at my usual 8 a.m., had breakfast, then it disappeared until 5 p.m. I had dinner. I watched TV in my room for a half hour, then the day disappeared until my usual bedtime of 11 p.m. Today has stayed all day. I like that. And I don't like that. They made me go to the community room today. Piss lady is off the rag at least, but she's still pissing in the middle of the room. She's quite annoying. I stayed off by myself in the community room. I people watched. As long as I remember I'm not one of them, it's actually amusing. Did I mention they told me I don't have multiple personalities? I asked. They also told me my brain really is in my head and not in a jar somewhere. I was being a smartass. They thought I was serious. Better watch what I say around here. Too easy to be mistaken for one of the crazies. Day 13. Told you I'd fix it. I had a dream. It's the first time I recall dreaming since being here. I think they had me on drugs, and that's why time disappeared. I passed out. The dream, quite strange actually. I woke at my usual 8 a.m. I was here in this dreary, depressing hospital or whatever it is with the bars on the windows. The place I don't like. But then something strange and mysterious happened. I left my body. I didn't hover like you hear about in near-death experiences and stuff like that. I just got up out of my body. I remember feeling totally free and so very happy. I closed my eyes for a split second and I was gone. Not gone, just not here. In the place I don't like. I was in the outside world again. I was walking along the sidewalk. No one could see me. It was strange, but way cool too. A few people seemed to sense I was there. I could tell by the looks on their faces, but they seemed confused. I turned to look at a man who had turned around to look at me. Or in my general direction, anyhow, since I knew he couldn't really see me. Then next thing I knew I was inside some other person's body and was walking behind the man I just looked at. I had no control over where this other body was taking me. You'd think being in that body I should be able to have some control, or to know what this person was thinking, where we were going. But I didn't. It was like I was a bug on his shoulder or something, just along for the ride. I know it was a man's body I was in because we went into a restaurant, and after ordering we went into the bathroom and I looked down and could see his dick. Looked pretty big. I thought, wouldn't mind some of that. I saw him in the reflection of the mirror as we left the bathroom. He didn't wash his hands. I found that disgusting. I tried to get him to go back, but like I said, I had no control over him. I felt nauseated as he picked up his burger with those hands he hadn't washed and brought it to his mouth. Thankfully, because I was along only for the ride, I couldn't taste anything. I would have puked in this man's body. Try explaining that to a doctor. Puke inside your body from another person. We left the restaurant and went to his office. He didn't really do anything for the rest of the day. In fact, he seemed to be good at doing nothing while appearing to be doing something. I wondered if I'd ever master that. I was getting bored being his passenger and tried to get out of his body. We weren't doing anything interesting, and if I was going to hitch on another body, I wanted some adventure. This dream was becoming tedious. I tried to wake up. No go. I stayed with Mr. Boring, doesn't wash his hands for a couple more hours. When he boarded the train to go home and lounged back in his seat, I was able to leave his body. To my relief. It was weird. The train was traveling at a pretty good speed, yet I walked out the door and onto the ground as if it was stopped. Even the breeze it created as it passed me, causing the long grass to sway, had no effect on me. It was like I was there, yet wasn't. I held no substance. I managed to make my way back to the city. What city? I don't know, the city. I closed my eyes again. When I opened them, I was here again, in the place I don't like. I was sitting on the bed, exactly where I'd been when the dream began. 324B was moaning. 324C, she looked at me and her mumbling was different. Still incoherent, but more pointed, if that was possible. She looked scared, but more confused than anything. I looked at the clock. It was 6:45 p.m. I missed dinner. I liked the dream. I hope I have more. Day 16. Days 14 and 15 disappeared, and yet they didn't. More of those leaving my body dreams. They start out the same. I close my eyes for a split second, then I'm sitting up and leaving my body. It stays here in the place I don't like. I go to the outside world. I was careful. I didn't hitch a ride with anyone until I saw what they looked like, where they were going, and if they looked like they might be fun. On day 14, I slipped into the body of a woman who had big tits. I've never had them and wondered what it would be like. The only difference seemed to be she got stared at more. Sometimes she didn't mind, other times she did, depending on who did the staring. And that's what made that dream the most different. I was able to connect with her emotions, but not her thoughts. And I still had no control. Because if I had, there was one man I would have made her kick in the nuts. He spoke in a language I didn't understand, but his physical actions made it pretty clear what he was saying. It wasn't you look lovely today, that's for sure. I stayed with her for most of the day. We went visiting to her friend's house, then to her mother's. We went shopping and bought some new clothes for a date. While she was trying on her clothes, I got a look at her body. Not the body I would have chose, but I still wished I could feel what it was like to be that body. To know what it was like to be that size. As a passenger, you don't get the full effect. I was hungry. She was dieting. Not that it would have made a bit of difference to me. She could have filled up on ice cream and cake and a fat, juicy steak, and I'd still be hungry. No fun being a passenger. On day 15, I again left, but not for as long. I wound up in Mr. Boring doesn't wash his hands body again. Not by choice. I closed my eyes and wound up in his body. No getting out of my body and drifting along until I found a body to hitch onto. Nope. Not that time. That time it was 1 second in my body, the next in his. We were at that same restaurant again. This time when he used the bathroom, I was able to get him to wash his hands. It wasn't easy. He was nearly out the door before I was able to get him to turn around and go back to the sink. His face reflected in the mirror was one of confusement. Like, why am I doing this? I wanted to scream. So I don't puke in your body. After we ate, we went back to his office again. He hated his job. He wanted more out of life, but didn't know what. I couldn't help him. I was little more than a passenger. So we sat at his desk, surfing the web on his computer, hoping he didn't get caught looking at the porn. I wanted him to go into the bathroom and jack off so I would know what it felt like, only I knew I still wouldn't know. How frustrating to be housed in the body of a man with a big dick and still not know what it was like to be a man with a big dick. Before leaving the office, he surfed some more on the computer, this time looking at sports statistics. The hard-on disappeared. We went to the train. He closed his eyes, and when I opened mine, I was back in my body. No dreams today. I stayed here the entire time. I tried. I sat on my bed and closed my eyes, but every time I opened them, I was still here, in the place I don't like. Day 20. No dreams, I've been here, the place I don't like. They tell me I haven't really left my body. I told them I didn't say I had. A dream is just that. Stupid bastards. I know it's all escapism. I'm dreaming I'm what I'm not, what I've never been, what I'll never be. I'm a small woman. In a hospital that has bars and no one will tell me why I'm here. My amusements consist of watching Piss Lady, Checkers Lady, and Lady Who Talks to Her Reflection, or listening to 324B moan, and not even a sexy moan. They've quit looking for my brain. Excuse me, at my brain. They'll think I'm crazy if I make reference to my brain being in a jar. They still want me to tell them what I remember. I still don't know what they're talking about. Day 23. On day 21 I did nothing. Absolutely nothing. They wanted me to go to the community room. I wouldn't go. Piss Lady had pissed me off the day before after I wrote here in my journal. In fact, I had just finished writing and she walked over to me and pissed on my goddamn foot. Of course, they didn't believe me. So I stayed in my room and watched TV with 324B and 324C when she was there. They can kiss my ass. Day 22 was interesting though. I woke up early. 6 a.m. Bloomburg was in my room. I asked him how he got there and he told me he had connections. I didn't care how he got there, I was just glad he was there. I told him about the leaving my body dreams. He laughed and said that was so typically me. I don't know what he meant. He told me he'd make me glad I was in my body. And awake. He laid down beside me. They make us wear hospital gowns that have the ties in the back and show off your ass if you don't put another one on backwards. So he was able to get my clothes off with 2 tugs. He didn't close the curtain around my bed, so 324B and 324C were able to see everything. Not that it mattered. One moaned all the time and the other one mumbled. They couldn't tell anyone anything. And besides that, it was kind of a turn on knowing if they woke up they could watch, even if they were crazy. I don't remember if Bloomburg and I were lovers before I wound up here, but we definitely became lovers after. That morning. He opened his shirt but didn't take it off. He unbuttoned and unzipped his pants and slipped them down past his hips with his underwear. Then he positioned himself between my spread legs and told me to play with my pussy while he stroked his cock. So I did. I ran my finger along my slit, then against my hole before going to my clit, and back again, over and over, feeling my pussy getting wet. All the while he was stroking his cock and I watched it growing, getting bigger, getting harder. He said, "You want me to fuck you? Is that what you want? You want my cock in that tight little pussy of yours?" I told him to fuck me till it hurt. He lifted my body and had me straddle him, lowering me until I could feel his cock going up my pussy. With my feet on each side of him, his hands on my hips, we slid my body up and down his cock over and over before he pushed me backwards, his cock still inside me. With my hands behind me, I was still able to leverage myself so I could slide against his cock while his thumb rubbed against my clit. I could feel my orgasm building with every thrust, every rub of his thumb. Then he pulled my body up again. He put his hand behind me and I could feel his finger going up my ass, his cock in my pussy, his mouth clamping down on my tit while his tongue teased against my nipple. At that moment I was insane. My moans were so loud they were more like screams. I had an orgasm like none I'd ever had before, my juices gushing over his cock, my pussy gripping against him so tightly he groaned as his own release was cut off momentarily. Then I felt him explode inside me. When I slipped off his lap, he was soaking wet. We laughed and used the sheet to clean up, then threw it on the floor. I was slipping my sexy hospital gown back on when we looked over and saw 324C had been woken and was sitting on her bed rocking back and forth, her hand between her legs. We laughed again. Bloomburg pulled his pants back up, kissed me goodbye and promised to come see me again. Soon. I don't know exactly how many days it had been since I'd had sex before then, at least 21. I was sore. All day I was feeling the effects of his cock banging into my pussy. It felt great. For the first time since waking in that place, I felt alive. Nothing bothered me the rest of the day. Day 24. They read my journal every day. They don't believe me. They say I made Bloomburg up, that he wasn't in my room, that I used something to fuck myself and pretended it was Bloomburg, my imaginary friend. I told them that the next time they could check for semen. They said that wouldn't be necessary. Imaginary men don't have semen. Bastards, they can kiss my ass. Day 30. Have decided since they think I'm nuts, I'm not going to write every day. Only when something interesting happens. Something interesting happened today. Bloomburg was here again. We fucked. Again. This time it was a quickie in the janitor closet. I saw him in the hall on my way to the community room. He opened the door to the closet and went in. When I reached it, I went in. He bent me over, rubbed his cock against my pussy a few times, then plunged it into me. With my hands grasping my ankles, he took hold of my hips and slammed into me, over and over, again and again, ramming his cock in as far as it would go each time. Then, just before he exploded, he stopped and turned me around. He pushed me to my knees and stuck his cock in my mouth, shoving it halfway down my throat before I felt his cum shoot out. He promised that next time it would be all about me. Then he pulled his pants back up, stuck his head out the door, took hold of my hand, and we went back to my room. He stayed for an hour and we visited, but he wouldn't tell me why I was here. Day 35. Am I insane? I had a dream, only it wasn't really a dream. It was one of those leave my body things, only different. I left, but I didn't really leave. It doesn't make sense, I know. That's why I question my sanity. Let me see if I can explain this. Since they're going to read it, I want them to know that I now know why, or at least might know why I'm here. Only I don't think it's why they think I'm here. I woke up at my usual 8 a.m. I opened my eyes. I was in bed 324A, but I was also out in the real world. I was hitching a ride with Mr. Boring now washes his hands. Only this time I had some control, not a lot. I still didn't know what it was like to be the body of a man with a big dick, but I could dictate where he went and what he did. I saw Miss Big Tits. He stared at her tits until I forced him to look at her face. I persuaded him to go to her even though he balked at the idea and fought me the whole time. I made him introduce himself. David Bloomburg. Then it hit me. This was my longtime friend, Bloomburg. I was in Bloomburg's body, and I remembered so much. I remembered him coming over to my apartment, hanging out watching movies, chatting about our day, bitching about our lives. And I realized that the man I thought of as Bloomburg, the man I'd been having sex with most every day for the last 2 weeks, wasn't Bloomburg. For some reason, I just associated his name to the man. The woman introduced herself as Mary Castlebaum. I knew her too, she was a client of mine. Only I couldn't, and still can't, remember what type of business I ran. While I was there, but not there, they made small talk and went to the restaurant Bloomy had gone to while I was hitching within him. At the same time this was going on, when I was gone but still here, I was also aware of what was going on here. 2 of the doctors were in my room. They had wires attached to my head. My body seemed to be in a rigid catatonic state. I was breathing, but there was no reaction to anything. It was like everything was paralyzed. No brain activity. I could see that on the portable machine they had hooked up to me, yet I was breathing on my own. They were stumped. Neither of the doctors was the man I thought of as Bloomburg. These were the men I'd seen almost daily, hooking me up to the brain machine. These were the ones I'd joked about my brain being in a jar, and they thought I was serious. These men had no sense of humor, maybe because they'd worked in this nut house too long. Anyway, without preamble, I was in my body again. I opened my eyes, looked at the doctors and said, "I'm back now. You can leave." Then I pulled the wires off my head and got up to use the bathroom. They were and probably still are dumbfounded. Of course, no one will believe this. Just like I haven't been having sex with some man I thought was Bloomburg. I wonder who he is. Day 40. They told me I'm not insane. I don't have multiple personalities. That maybe I'd be better off in a different setting. They're assholes. They won't tell me why I'm here. Bloomburg, who isn't Bloomburg, came to see me again. I asked him his name. He told me I already know it, that I have to remember what it is and who he is. I asked him if he was the devil or some demon and I was his human mistress. He just laughed at me and told me that was so typical of me. Whatever the hell that means. Then he pulled the curtain shut around my bed, pushed me down, spread my legs and buried his head there. Oh my God, it was definitely worth the wait. He kissed my inner thighs, teasing with his breath against my pussy, nipping at the tender flesh around my pussy, before finally using his tongue to lick my slit up and down, burying his face deep inside. He licked, he sucked, he nipped with his teeth, he put his tongue deep inside my pussy. I had to use a pillow to cover my face so no one would hear my screams. I was out of control, my hips rising, pushing myself against him, alternately pulling his head against me and trying to push it away. It was so intense it hurt, but in a way that leaves you feeling so good you think you've died, and this is your reward. I have no idea how many times I had an orgasm. I lost count after 2. While I was trying to find my mind again, he went into the bathroom to wash his face. And maybe jack off, I don't know. One of the nurses came in while he was in the bathroom. She yanked my curtain open, and there I was with my gown still up around my waist, my legs spread open, the smell of my pussy juices filling the little area. "Jesus Christ, Matilda," she said as she pulled my gown down. Her face was pinched, and she looked like some 18th century prude, or what I imagine one would look like. Like I'd done something wrong instead of having just experienced the best going down on ever. "Why am I here, Finklestion?" I asked her. She told me not to call her that, but ignored my question. Then I informed her that as long as she called me Matilda, I'd call her Finklestion. After all, I'm 324A. She took my vitals and suggested I not engage in extracurricular activities. Then she left. Bloomburg, who is not Bloomberg, stepped out of the bathroom as soon as she rounded behind the door. I wondered why he always made himself scarce around other people. The only people he'd let see him were 324B and 324C, the crazies. We talked about art for an hour. We always talked about something intellectual. Then he left. I got out of bed and went over to sit by 324C. She was mumbling and counting her fingers. "I know you can understand me. When he comes to see me, do you see him?" She glanced at me momentarily, and I'm pretty sure I saw her nod her head. Just a little. The longer I'm here, the more I doubt my grasp on reality. What if they're right and I'm somehow fucking myself? Day 47. According to them, I'm making progress. I don't know what they mean. Everything before 47 days ago is still a blank. Unless I'm telling them things I don't remember telling them. Maybe I suffer from short-term memory loss. But wouldn't I be able to remember things from my long-term memory? Or maybe my brain was the victim of some sci-fi experiment you thought only happened in the movies. I don't know. No more dreams where I'm out of my body and hitching a ride with some other body. No more unexplained hours that have disappeared. Unfortunately, this is where I've remained. Here, in the place I don't like. With piss lady, checkers lady, lady who talks to her reflection, 324B and 324C, Finkelstein and Bloomberg who isn't Bloomberg. And the good doctors who are making me well without me knowing how or why. Without me realizing it. Maybe the goal was to make me insane and think I'm sane so I don't know I'm not sane. Maybe I did nothing to get here. But they keep me drugged up so I don't know the difference. But for some unknown reason, I have to be kept away from the outside world. And they don't let me read what I've already written. They take the pages away every night. No matter where I stash them, there's only so many hiding places. And they know them all, so I can't even look back at what I wrote before. Maybe I'm just writing the same thing over and over. How will I know? Day 50. They tell me I'm leaving. Next week, that I'm cured, I'm going home. Where is home? It's a little apartment over by the river. Downstairs is my shop. I tell fortunes. I guess I used to be good. I made a decent enough living at it. I even used to help the police with some missing person cases. Can I still do it? I don't know. Why was I put here? Nobody knows. They weren't able to find it in my psyche. All they know is that Bloomberg found me huddled in a corner one afternoon. I wasn't talking. I was ghostly pale. I'd probably been there for a couple days. They finally told me yesterday, after I told them my life story up to 2 months ago. Did I go somewhere I shouldn't have? Did I see something I shouldn't have? I have no idea. I think I short-circuited. Bloomberg, who isn't Bloomberg, whom nobody except me and 324C have ever seen, has disappeared. Was he my imaginary lover? Was 324C getting off watching me get myself off? Why do I sense the name Gil? Who is he? Is he real? My name isn't Matilda. Finklestion, who is really not a Finklestion at all, only called me that because I guess I remind her of someone named Matilda. Or she hates the name and hates me, so she just puts the name to the face. Who knows? Well, I might if I ever get my abilities back again. Actually, I think I did have them. For a while, here, I seem to recall being here and not being here. And the real Bloomburg was involved. He who will be taking me home next week. He who was kept away from me because they wanted me to get better on my own. Whatever. Might not have taken so long if they'd let me see the real world. Beyond the bars on the windows of this nut house. I don't belong here, I never belonged here. I'll be glad to be gone. Final day 56. This will be my last entry. The last time they get a peek into my brain. It's a little scary, I'm surprised they wanted to see it at all. I know the answers. I know what I saw, I know why I spaced out. And I'm not telling. Mystery is good for the soul, keeps you interested, makes you question. Bloomburg who isn't Bloomburg. Is Gilbert Finklestion. No, not really, I just said that for fun to see if they're paying attention. He's real. He's as real as you, as me, as 324B and 324C and the other cast of characters in this nut house. He's waiting for me at home. He's my partner, my soul mate, my other half, in ways they'll never understand. He really was here, and yet he wasn't. 324C is nuts. At a level beyond their comprehension. That's why she could see him. Be kind, live well, love often. I'm outta here.